Okay, well, we are ready to start texturing our taxiway. So here we are in our GMax here, which I almost sense has just freezed, but let's see. Oh, here we go. Just have to reset the driver or something, whatever that is. Let's see if that'll fix it. All right, seems to be working now. So well, let's get right to it here. We're gonna start on this model here first. So we're gonna go to our material editor, say new, flight sim X. We're gonna set the specular to black. Um, kind of some of the same processes you've seen before. Gonna navigate to our folder here, if I can find it. There we go. And we are going to grab, let's see if I can find our texture. I might have to re-export it if I forgot to. In fact, let me just do that real quick. I have GIMP open here. Let me just bring down the opacity on that line because we don't want that on our texture. Okay, that looks good. Let's just export our texture here real quick. Take note, it's a seamless 2. There it is. So we're just gonna load this texture here. We're gonna click the checkered cube and say apply. And it's applied to our plane here. In fact, let's go ahead and apply it to the rest of our planes. And we'll also apply it to our lofts. Alright. I'm just holding down the control key to select all of them at once. That looks good, I think. Alright, so let's go ahead and just map this plane right here. So we're going to go to Modify tab, and we're going to look here and go to UVW map. Alright, now that we're here, the width of this plane is 30, and we want this texture to repeat squarely, so we're going to set the length repeat to 30 meters. Alright, that looks good. Let's try this this plane here. The width of this is 20, so let's go to UVW map. Set the width 20. Now you notice it's not texturing the right direction, so what we'll have to do, we'll have to go into the drop down menu of the UV mapping here and select Gizmo, then use the rotate tool. Rotate it on the Z axis, or in this case the blue axis. Rotate it 90 degrees. You can look down there in that box on the right, or on the bottom right. It says 90, so we're good. Alright, let's go ahead and map. Let's see, we need to kind of deactivate our UV mapping here. There we go. Let's go ahead and take this one, say UVW map. Again, same process. I'm going to try and do this fairly quickly here. Do the same thing for this one, UVW map. Set the width to 20 as well, so it's length and width equals 20. We're going to use the gizmo and rotate this plane 90 degrees. Okay, that looks good. Alright, so we got the main planes kind of mapped. Now we need to work on these lofts. And this is something a little different we have to do here. Alright, so we know that the texture should repeat about every 20 meters. So we need to somehow figure this out, because it's at the moment it's stretched along the length of the loft, I believe. So You can see it probably repeat. It should repeat maybe once. Let's see, 1, 2, maybe 2.5 at most. So we're going to do under the Modify tab with our loft selected. We'll have the loft here. We want to go to Surface Parameters, and we'll make sure Apply Mapping is checked and Normalize is checked there. Let's set the length repeat up some. So we're going to just try 2 to start with. And so we're just going to just kind of look at it and see how it fares with this texture down here on the other plane, which you know is mapped perfectly. It looks pretty good. Maybe a little stretched, hard to say. But you just have to kind of eyeball it till it looks like it's about where it needs to be. I'm just going to go ahead and bring the mapping length repeat up just a little bit. Obviously it's going to be stretched more on the outside than in the inside. Alright, that looks pretty good. And in this case we don't have to mess with anything else, it's good just the way it is. But on these lofts down here we're going to do something even a little extra. So let's go ahead and edit this loft. And I was trying to remember if all these were instances of each other or just, we'll see here. Alright, so sort of the same thing. In this case, I need to remember what was the width of our loft here. That was the large, is that the large one? But we need to kind of figure out what was the width of our loft here. I think it was 8, I want to say it was 8 meters wide. Let's go with that real quick. So if it was 8 meters, it needs to take 8. Let's divide 8 by 20. So it should repeat on the width about 0.4. Let's see how that looks. That looks about right. So now we need to figure out the length. It's going to repeat at least once. It looks a little stretched, so we're just going to kind of just edit it until it looks good. And let's see if it's doing it to the rest of these or not. It looks like it's editing this one. Alright, that's okay. That'll work. So we're gonna keep clicking things here till we get it to about where we think it needs to be. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let's now go to the Modify drop-down menu here and say unwrap UVW, which is, you know, unwrap instead of UVW map. So we're going to say unwrap UVW. Okay, we're going to say edit, and we know where our, well here, I'll show you. We know where the edge texture is on our texture sheet. It's right here. So what we need to do, we need to just select all these. And I think we're going to have to rotate this 180 degrees. There we go. So now we can see the edge. And then we can just kind of move this in until it's where it needs to be, which is right about there. Go ahead and close that. Let me go to wireframe so I can see the width of this loft. It looks to be maybe, it doesn't even look to be 8 meters. It's probably more like about 5. So what that means, we need to make the width repeat 0.25. So 5 divided by 20 is 0.25. So we'll go back to the loft. We're just going to say yes to that. Make the width repeat 0.25. Say enter. Alright, now we have to delete our unwrap and redo it. So we're going to delete that. And we're going to go back to unwrap UVW, redo this here. So we're just going to rotate it 180. You'll kind of see the lines are nice and straight, and that's when you know you've rotated it right. There we go, it looks close. Maybe rotate it back the other way just a little bit. Alright, just try and get as close as you can. Alright, that looks pretty good. In fact, I think I'll just leave it at that. So that's how you kind of do these lofts. I find it's probably the best method to go about doing it. Yeah. So let's go ahead and in fact, I think I said something wrong here. We're not using this texture actually. We're just using this texture here. Yes, that's right. I still need to remove the wear off of this texture too, but we'll do that later. Alright, so we do the same thing for these lofts, which this loft and this loft are instances of each other. Let's go ahead and kind of map our lines now. So we have our line texture here. I called it a markings. Yeah, so there it is. Yeah, it's been a while, so I was trying to remember how much of this I've showed you on other videos, but let's go with it here. So we're going to select our lofts here, and we're going to apply. We don't want that. We want to select our loft. Alright. Again, we're just holding down Control before we click on each one to select all of them at once. Let's see. Let's see, we're selecting the wrong ones here. There we go. Let's see what happens now. We can go here into the material editor, make a new texture, flight, whoops, we want to delete that, let's redo that, flight sim X, and we're going to select our markings texture. Alright, we're going to click the blue checker, we can apply it to our lofts, and we still have a couple more lofts to apply it to, but I'll just go ahead and just stick with where we're at. I don't think I have to show you every one of these, and we still have a couple more models to go about doing here. So I'll just show you how to do a couple of these and then we'll move on. This we want to repeat. Let's go to UVW map. Make the width 20, and we're going to make the length 20. Alright, and we need to rotate this. Not that. We want to use the drop down menu here on UVW mapping and rotate our texture 90 degrees. Right there. And then we want to take the move tool and move it to position our texture right there. We'll try to get it in the center, or as close to as we can. That looks pretty good. Alright. And we'll go ahead and do these lofts here now. So just going to kind of click on that to deactivate that mapping. We'll try one of these lofts. Let's see if we get one of these selected. Or the right one selected. Zoom out here. maybe go to wireframe sometime, it's easier to select. And usually if I was seriously working on a project, I'd be naming all these, and that way I could just select them through the select objects menu here. But in this case I didn't, and so I have no idea which ones are which. But that's okay, we're still going here. Alright, so this one, kind of same thing as the other loft, only in this case, let's see, I think this line is a ½ meter wide. So we're going to take 0.5 divided by 20, which gives us 0.025. That's going to be our width repeat number, so we're going to say 0.025 into the width. And we're going to put the length repeat. Well, let's see how long this loft is. It's going to be repeated maybe a little more than twice, but we're just going to say 2 for now on the length. Alright. In fact, let's go a little less, maybe, you know, something like that. Or even, you know, it's probably going to be even closer to 1 now that I'm looking at it. You just kind of have to eyeball this. Right, because we straighten this out. Let's see, maybe 1.3. Let's just try something like that. Alright, so now we have to go to unwrap UVW. We're going to edit this. We know our line, looking at our texture here, it's over on the right side. So we're going to move this so that it's over here. We're going to start seeing our line appear on our loft fairly soon. There it comes. And we know we'll have the width repeat about right if it looks kind of like the straight line we did over here. So we're just going to keep messing with it here. Inch it over. Alright, just a little bit more. Whoops, need to reselect that. Zoom way in now. Move up onto one of these vertices. Alright, now let's move it over. So this work can be a little tedious sometimes. That's not too bad. Alright, so that's how you kind of texture those lofts. And then just texture the rest of these the same way. And yeah, and so that's how you kind of texture these. Let's go on to this now. This we're going to do a little differently. We have these edge lofts, and we have these, of course, these taxi lines, which are lofts, or some of them are, and then we got the straight lines. And then we just have the main part of the taxiway. We're going to need to use a little bit different methods for this. Let's go to our wireframe so we can see what we're selecting here. We're going to select our main polygon first. In the material editor, we're going to create a new texture, Flight Sim X. Set the specular down to pure black. Grab our texture here, which I happen to know is called a seamless one. And this texture is, let's see, I think I have an opening GIMP here. It's this texture right here. Let me select all as well. It's just a tileable texture, it just repeats. And here's the edge texture for it, which is just, again, just a snip out of this texture, or just a cut, you know, took like the edge of this texture. Then kind of blackened the edge of this, erased the edge, and added a little black edge on there to kind of give it some depth. So go back in here, we got our texture, we're just going to apply it, and that should have applied it there. And so now let's select our lofts. Got all three selected. We're going to make a new material. Also, you probably want to make sure when you're doing this that you name them. That'll prevent maybe even possibly getting a duplicate name texture in there, which can cause you all kinds of errors and stuff. So Let's go to our edge, find our edge texture here, A edge 1. Okay, select it, and we're going to apply it, which looks like I just deselected my lofts, so let's reselect them. And let's just apply them. And that they should be applied now. And for our lines, we just need to select all of them somehow. There we go. And for these lines, we are just going to be applying our line texture. Now, once you have loaded a texture that you're going to be using on different parts of the model, you're going to go in here to the GMax Material Navigator and select that texture from in here. And ideally, again, you'd have them named. But here's our taxiway texture, or taxi line marking texture. We're just going to click the main part of it here. You can see some of the geometry it's applied to already. So I'm going to bring that into the material editor once again, and we're just going to apply it to our lofts that we have selected. And now when we go to smooth and highlights, it should all be there in some form or another. Alright, so let's go ahead and map the main polygon here, which I think I have selected right now. Go to UVW map. Let's make it repeat in a 20 by 20 square fashion. Alright, just like that. It's not a whole lot of position you want to do. I mean, you could move it around, but that's basically all you have to do for that. These lofts, we're doing it the same way as any other loft. Basically, we'll select the loft. We need to kind of look here. Let's see. I'm going to repeat this. We know that this sometimes the best way to measure this out, I find, is just to create a plane. We can make it, since our texture is repeating every 20 meters, we can make it 20 by 20. Alright, let's just take this plane and kind of eyeball some things here. So we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it looks like maybe the same amount more this way. So it's going to repeat at least 10 times on the length. So let's go back to our modified tab. Let's set our length repeat to 10. I believe the width of these lofts should be, let's see here, we should have a tape measure here. One of these. Spacing tool. I used to use it a lot, now I can't find it. But anyhow, let's just, I think it's based off of this loft. I think that should be about 8 meters. So, the width is going to be 20 divided by 8. Or, excuse me, 8 divided by 20. Whoops. I'm on my calculator here. Alright, 0.4. So we can make the width repeat to 0.4. Alright. So there we can kind of start to see our texture. It looks a little stretched. So we're just going to bring up the length repeat. What I'm doing, I'm looking at part of the texture on one, and kind of looking at the same part of it on here. So there's kind of the same marking right there, I think. And we're just upping the length until it kind of matches this texture. funny enough, maybe it doesn't even, I don't know if it's quite the same texture as this one here. These should be congruent with each other. Let's go ahead and re-export this file. Export to edge 1 just to make sure we got the right texture version up there. And let's reload it real quick, because it doesn't look like it's matching quite like I thought it should. And maybe here we go. Here's our texture. In fact, let's just click the diffuse color and then reload it. There we go. That looks more like it. Alright, so make sure you're using the right version of the texture there, I guess. That's what that means. I might make the width repeat a little larger, because it doesn't look like it's repeating quite right, or not quite big enough. Let's make it to 0.25. We're going to make the length repeat a little less, maybe. We're just eyeballing it here. And you can see same parts of texture. Here's this little rock in the texture over here. This one's a little scrunched, so obviously we have the length repeating too much. So we're just going to keep clicking. In fact, I was going the wrong way, I think. Let's go down. There we go. Getting close. Just try and get maybe as close as you can possibly get it. Obviously, the closer the better. How about something like that? Doesn't look too bad. In fact, we need to lengthen it more, because you can see the distance between the two stones here and on the main texture. It's a lot further, so we need to really bring down the repeat. But now it looks too stretched, so we're just going to we're going to bring it up. There we go. Haven't done this in a while, guys, so it's a little rusty. Alright, so now let's go to unwrap UVW. I'm going to say edit, and we're just going to position our loft so we can get that edge where it needs to be. I think I'll have to rotate this as well, just like all the other ones we did. Perhaps if I put the texture on the other side of the texture sheet, I wouldn't have to rotate it, but that's okay. I'm not complaining too much. Right there. Looks pretty good. In fact, our edge is right about where we want it, so just X that off. And so that's kind of how you do the edge lofts. And the taxi lines, of course, same thing, and I don't think I need to show you that. Alright, so here's our last model. It's just, let's see, this one we're going to do a concrete texture on, so let's make sure we got our main poly selected here. Gonna create a new texture, or add a new texture. Again, spec clear down to 0, basically what that means. Bitmap, and we're gonna say concrete 1. And we're gonna click apply. Alright, so it's more or less there now. We just need to map it so it's positioned exactly where we want it. Looks like I went ahead and named these polys, but anyhow, let's go ahead and UV map this. Width, I'm pretty sure we want the width and length to be 20. No, that's too much, or too little. We want maybe, let's try 30. There should be about 4 across, I think. And then we just need to position it so that, whoops, moving the polygon. We want to move the texture, so we're going to use a gizmo here. We got too much here. Let's make this to 25 then. We're just going to kind of get it positioned where we need it to be. Let's see. I really need to be able to see over these other lofts, edge lofts here. What I might do, I might actually select the lofts right now because we're going to be using our asphalt edge texture here. So what we'll do, we'll just go into your material navigator. And here's one thing, I better do this right now. Let's just save our model since we're getting a ways. Let's see. Here's our edge texture. Load that in real quick. Let's apply it. And then let's set the opacity. Here's a trick here, guys. Let's set the opacity to 0. So now we can see our poly here and get it positioned exactly where we need it to be. We also need to select our taxi line lofts and apply the appropriate texture of those two, and then we can bring the opacity down on those as well to so we don't have to mess with not being able to see through them. Just give me a second to select them all here. Alright, looks like we have them all selected. Let's select our taxi line texture and apply that to those. Alright, back to our main poly here after we set the opacity down to 0 for those. Alright, back to smooth and highlights. Alright, that's good. Now we can see here, we want the edge of our concrete to be lined up with exactly with the edge of our poly here. So we're going to use the gizmo here to is that really what it's called, the gizmo? I guess it is. Alright, so we're just going to position it right where it needs to be. That looks good. Just so we have that edge, the black crack kind of lined up there on the poly. And then we want to do the same thing for over here, so we have to move this to the left until we have it aligned with the edge over here, which is right about there. Perfect. And so that's basically what we have to do there. Now, we were going to do something a little different for the taxi lines in the center here. We had another part of the texture for our taxi lines, which is this one, and it has this kind of wear on it. What we'll do, we'll just apply that, or position that part of the texture on our lofts here in the center. And I'm about ready to wrap up this texturing video because I think we've covered all that we really need to do, or need to cover. Let's go ahead and bring the opacity up on our taxi line texture again. Back up to 100 so we can see what we're doing. Let's just use the UV mapping to map it to our first loft here, or not loft, just our line, or plane in this case. Go back to smooth and highlights so I can see we have it selected. And let's use the UVW map. Almost looks like I got the wrong the wrong thing selected here. Let's see. It's treating it like a loft. Did I loft this? Don't think so. Alright. So let's go ahead and delete these. right here. Actually, I did loft it, so we'll just map it like we did, like we do with everything else. Let's see. Let's do it by 25 this time. So there's going to be about 1, 2, 3, not 3.5, or 4 in this case. Oh, and I see what I did here. I actually, experimenting earlier, I actually already mapped it, but that's good. So on a length repeat we have 4.0 and the width we have 0.32. Let's go ahead and go to unwrap UVW to see where we're at with this. And we're just going to move it over to where our texture is. And let me turn back to smooth and highlights here. And let's go ahead and select our concrete texture and set the opacity down to 0 so we can see what we're doing here. And so we'll get this taxi line so it's more or less right in the center. Let me zoom in here so we can get a little more accurate on the movements here. Right about there. And so you just kind of do that for the rest of these lofts. Again, you just kind of line these lines up so it starts from here, then there'll be a line over here, and you kind of line it up all the same. And yeah, so you kind of do that. And again, you just use the this part of the texture right here without the wear for the sides here. And yeah, that's pretty much all good to go like that. So I hope that gave you kind of some good idea of how to go about texturing your taxiways. Next video we'll be going on to exporting, and of course I'll have the rest of this all textured and ready to go for that, and so we can export it and get a good look at it in the sim. Alright, thanks.